I do think you can solve things with an unhealthy culture. It's just not worth it on the long run. If you have a good culture and you have good people, then things will fall in place.
Head of studio at Funcom. We are talking about building teams today. A lot of experience, and of course, most recently, Dune Awakening.
You want to hire people and you get someone that actually knows how to do it, but you don't feel you click. On the short run, you will get the results, but most likely in 6 months to a year, you're going to start having problems.
Is there any maybe misconceptions or any mistakes people are making when it comes to like building their core team?
If it's 10 people, you need a tech person, you need a manager, and you need a creator. What I've seen with small things is that usually they don't have a manager, and that's where it all falls apart. You spend most of your time with the people you work with. You're basically building a part of life for your team. Make it nice.
Ionut, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you for coming. Super excited. So for everyone at home, head of studio at Funcom. They just released Dune Awakening not too long ago. And we are talking about building teams today. And the goal of today is to cover it from kind of all the angles. So Ionut has a lot of experience. So he's worked on obscure titles like Pac-Man, also Assassin's Creed, and of course, most recently, Dune Awakening. So what we want to get into today for the entire podcast is a bit about Ionut's story, but of course, how to build teams and for the people who are building teams from the very get-go, but then also as kind of headcount goes higher and higher. So, Ionut, how does it feel? Because we were just saying before the podcast, it's been very, very busy for you, right?
Yeah, it's been. We launched the game beginning of summer, and right after launch, we had a very, very busy period. We had to fix, patch, make sure that the servers are up, handle the influx of players, which was a great thing, but also a stressful thing, you might imagine. But we actually managed, after we stabilized the game, to do it the Nordic way and have some vacation. And after that, towards the fall, we came back and now we are working on improving the game, fixing what the players are complaining about, and preparing for the big console launch next year.
Very exciting. Great. So I want to start this podcast with a specific question. Knowing a lot of studios name things very differently. Like you're the head of studio of Funcom, but what does that actually mean day to day for people? Because I feel like it's very different depending on which studio.
Yeah, it is different. For us, it's I would say it's pretty in line with the standard. So I'm leading the Bucharest studio of Hong Kong. We have studios in many locations in the world. 4 big locations. The headquarters is in Norway, Oslo. And as I was saying, I'm leading the Bucharest studio, which means basically making sure that things run smooth, that people are happy, that we have a healthy culture, that we are developing our skills and we're improving the things that we actually can build. We're improving the contribution we have to the games in the company. So yeah, I would say it's a combination of all the operational stuff, making sure that we have a nice office and fruits in the kitchen. But on the other side, we have business, all the business elements, which is delivering things on time, making sure we are well prepared for the future, and making sure we have a healthy culture. This is the part that I love the most. Like,
Beautiful.
I think
And we'll
if you
definitely
have,
get into it.
yeah, if you have a good culture and you have good people, then things will fall in place.
And the opposite is also true. If you don't have healthy culture, you don't have good people, things start to fall apart, I imagine.
On the long term, I would say you can have an unhealthy culture that can work for a period of time. Like it's not super common to hear that, but I do think you can solve things with an unhealthy culture. It's just not worth it on the long run. It will fall
Yeah.
apart.
All right. Let's do it. So, in terms of building teams, so I want to ask you As you got into this role at head of studio, I'm sure in your previous roles you were part of building teams, but then this is probably different with every studio. So I think for people at home, like when you say building teams, what are you envisioning here? Like what should people keep in mind? Like what is building a team when it comes to a game studio?
I would say it's building group of people that actually have the same goal. And this goal can be a small one, a big one. Like if you're working on a game, you might, or working on a part of a game, you might have just a small thing that you want to implement, like some side quests, let's say. Let's think of a game like Assassin's Creed. And you maybe you are implementing just some side quests. And the goal is to have those side quests done as good as possible and integrated within the game. And the team there actually needs to be passionate about what they're building and have healthy interactions. If you're building like a long lasting, then if we're thinking at a studio level, it becomes a bit more complex because you're not just talking about things that you're gonna deliver in 6 months or a year. You're thinking about what you're gonna deliver, what you are going to be able to do in like 5 years from now, and you need to balance these, right? The short term results versus the long term development.
Yeah. Having that right now with myself. So I have in my company a marketing agency and I have the writing team. And like the writing team's been effectively in place probably since January because I had some help. Now I have more people. And now I've moved to like more content director where I'm like reviewing quality control and one on ones. But then at the same time, I've got a different team, which is the event team, which is like 1 month old. And then I'm like, oh, great. Now I have to do this at the same time, but they need different sort of attention. And then what you said at the very end, what is the master goal that everyone has? And then I realized I'm being pulled in these two different areas, but we still want to get to the same area. And then it started to get a lot more complicated. And I have 6 people. Like can't imagine like how many people this involves in the studio. So I want to break this down step by step. So when someone's trying to build a team, even if it's like 3, 5, 10 people, in your experience, like what is the number one maybe misconception or mistake you see people make that kind of needs to get fixed later?
Short term thinking, like you have a need. Right? Usually, let's take your example. You want to have writers, so you need, your goal is to have content, right? And you have an opportunity. You want to get those texts ready and good and quick because you don't want to miss the window of opportunity there. You have a business that you run. You found clients, right? So now you want to hire people and you get someone that actually knows how to do it. They have very good results, but you don't feel you click with that. Your company doesn't click with the profile because of reasons, right? Maybe you're a very results oriented person and you have a candidate that's more of a quality driven person and will like to really polish every little bit of text and so on the short run you will get the results, but most likely in 6 months to a year you're going to start having problems because you're going to see delays and you'll want everything done like fast now. Let's get it out. If it's 90% good, we need to get it out. But then you would get into a fight because 95% is what the writer will want. So in general, it's this type of mismatch of personality, and it might be between you as a founder and an employee, or even between the culture of a company and an employee. And this was our case also.
Yeah, so how do you navigate that? Because I feel like there needs to be a line, right? No one's going to be perfect. And almost we don't want to hire like more versions of Harry because then that is its own mess, right? It's probably one Harry is enough. But like in the game studio example, I can't imagine how complicated that gets where you have to not only yes, is it a match with the founder and the founder's vision? Cool. Then they have the team vision, and then the specific people in that team. Would they vibe together? Would they vibe with the next 6 months? Maybe they wouldn't vibe with the next 2 months, but they would vibe for the whole year. Like, should we bring them in? Like, I feel like there's all these things where things will go wrong because it's human, right? I'm wondering, like, do you have any examples where you've seen this happen, and like, was there potentially a chance to like maybe avoid it? Like, just a quick anecdote here. When I was hiring my writers, the first time I tried was dreadful because I had basically a paid writing task. So I said, "Hey, here's a transcript, make a post." And I just reviewed the post, and that was how I was making my decisions whether to get a writer. Now I flipped it recently where we have two writers finishing a trial week right now. And it was very short, 30-minute chat, which was based on the values of and the vision of the company and then their personal vision, checking if that aligned first, then checking if they liked the process, and then we moved on to the paid writing stuff and went on further. So it was like a simple solution that I had that was really good. But I feel like, how do you test that when it comes to game development? It's like so many things you want to test, but you don't have time because we have the realities of you don't have 24/7 to interview people and make sure everything's perfect. So I'm wondering, is there any example that you've seen where we're trying to hire someone, but it didn't work out? Like, was there something that you could have avoided? Or I just feel like it can be a bit overwhelming trying to get this right.
No, it can be at times, and it's definitely energy draining. Um, Congrats on actually starting to hire for like the medium term. this is
Yes, yes,
this is a
yes,
step.
yes, yes.
This is a step
Promotion plan,
towards
we're evolving. We're evolving. Not perfect, but we're evolving.
building. Yeah, it's a good plan toward building a team for like the medium term. But there's no clear solution, right? And you were asking me about some examples here. We started the studio 4 years ago, and we had like various steps in its development. And there's no perfect way of hiring people. But what we did was in the beginning, we developed like a hiring Bible, let's say. So what we wanted in a person, like what's the perfect candidate, and this is a great exercise that I recommend to everyone to just write down the perfect candidate in their mind, right? In their opinion. So
Across disciplines?
yeah, I would just go with the what we call soft skills or core skills, like the
Got it.
personality, right? And then in terms of actual technical skills, and when I say technical skills, I mean like artistic skills, depending on the job, right? Game design skills, I would still categorize those as technical skills. For a programmer, technical skills means you know how to code. For a designer, technical skills means you know how to balance game economy, for example, or do rubber banding systems in games and so on. And then for an artist would mean knowing how to work with 3D Studio Max and so on. So I would write a perfect candidate page. If we have this candidate, which is very proactive, which is very competitive, let's say. We want someone that wants to be number one. So we want to hire. This is our perfect candidate. People that want to be number one. We're okay with this and so on. So you write those, and then you write what are your definite no-nos. On the other
Any
side of the
examples?
spectrum, for example, a thing that we avoided, which were not definite no-nos, is we avoided people that are overly competitive.
Hmm.
Which is some people would maybe hire those.
In a
In our
sales
case,
position, you kind of need competitiveness, but this
of
isn't
course,
sales. So what were you afraid of if someone came in that was super competitive? Because there was probably a reason you wrote that down, right?
yeah, we're so we have a Nordic value, a list of Nordic values, right? And then the Nordics are not competitive, not they don't go into direct conflict. They're conflict shy, right? So the company revolves around collaboration and people working together and not having any type of open conflicts. So if we hire people that are super competitive, right, and that want to be like number one of the time, then we would start having conflicts, not inside the studio, which might happen, but it's not that bad. We're from Romania, and the culture is okay with some type of competitiveness, with some type of, let's say, aggressive speech. People call it aggressive. We might call it aggressive, right?
Very similar to Cyprus. I'm
Yeah,
wondering who's more aggressive. I think we're quite even, like Cypriots and
uh,
Romanians.
I think we're quite the same. I We are working with culture map.
Hmm.
So with culture map, you can actually see the
Oh, you
differences.
actually know the answer. He's not even a guess.
Yeah. I actually don't know because I didn't look at Cyprus versus Romania, but I can look. I actually can look after the
Yeah.
show. Um, yeah. So this would be my first recommendation. Create a list of traits that you would like in your perfect candidate and the list of definite knowns. For us, definite knowns were uh, the obvious ones, like if we saw any sign of racism or misogynism, right? Because it's a reality, unfortunately. There's still uh, some area of the of game development which favors misogynism, right? It's still a man-led man-led industry, but it's changing, right? Diversity kicks in. So we had these, um, and yeah, I think these were the two big ones. And then we had not definitely no nos, but to look out for like yellow
Yeah.
flags.
Red flags.
If we, yeah, not red, yellow. These were
Yellow.
red. Yellow flags would be like if we have people that are super competitive. If we had people that are very more like mercenaries, not passionate about games, but to rather seek for, I don't know, just a job. We are thinking on the long term. If you're thinking, we were thinking at that moment, and we're thinking still. But if you're looking for someone to deliver the job, you might have the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
You might want people that are good at delivering. They're gonna come in like mercenaries, deliver, really good at that, and then move on.
Yeah. Which
So there's
is it's
no,
just
the
different
thing
goals,
is,
right?
yeah, that there's no good or bad. It depends. And even in your case, I think you might be better off just hiring people that are just like you.
Well, it's
And
interesting because with my world specifically, I'll give a small anecdote here. It's I thought about that, but then I realized I kept on thinking, how do I make sure this person doesn't leave? Because I'm like, as soon as they get good, why wouldn't they just start their own business? Because what we do, once you know how to do it, you can do your own business because it's like business development, right? It's a very unique situation. And what ended up working out really well is looking for people who just don't want that. They just want to write. But I thought I had to find the person who looked like me in the normal places I was looking, which were business communities, like friends of friends, but they thought like me. And that's when I was finding the conflict. But when I actually put a job posting up and I was getting applications from everywhere, it's like, no, there's people who just love to write and they want to write. Yes, they want to be part of a team, but they don't have the aspiration to go and chase clients and do all of that stuff. And I realized this is just feeling a lot better right now, and I just didn't realize that that kind of group existed. So it's different. If I'm hiring like a sales manager who needs to own their department, I'm with you. But right now, like when it was night and day difference, and it was interesting because the first time I was only looking at skills, and that was the only thing I was looking for. But then when I switched to make sure, like, hey, let's do the sense check first and then do the skills test, yeah, it was a lot better performance.
of course, maybe you have a different situation right now with not wanting to hire people that want to start their own companies, so you have a very big turnover.
Yeah,
But um, there's also some gain into having people that are just like you because you know how they think. You
yeah, I know how I can
they
incentivize them.
yeah they understand it. It's very fast, right? It doesn't pay on the long term. You need diversity. You need people that challenge you, so you don't get stuck into just one way of thinking. But for the sake of speed, and especially when you're just starting, it's great to have some people that understand you, that you can speak to in your own language, and they
Yeah.
understand it, and they move forward. So maybe you're just moving to your second stage, which
Yeah.
is hiring people to create a diverse team rather than
Yeah.
just
No,
hiring
it's an
Harrys.
exciting time. Scary and exciting. I want to ask you, when it comes to the HR Bible, is there anything tactically we should be doing here? Because I have a little funny story where I applied for a job while I was in university to be an ambassador of the school for international students. I got the job. Then the next year, I became the senior ambassador. So I applied for like leading the next group. And by accident, I got access to the Google Drive and I found the interview feedback for my first interview. And I was a bit shocked. I probably shouldn't have seen this, but it said like a bunch of like positives and negatives. And it was similar to what we were saying. It's like one of them I remember really well. It said confident, question mark, maybe too confident. And it was like a warning sign. It was so interesting seeing like they were checking how I was, and I never thought about this in the interview. It was like maybe I was too excited, and maybe I came across the wrong way. And I want to ask your opinion on this from both sides, right? Because I hear what you're saying. I'm like, okay, cool. Do I need to change how I behave in the interview now, or do I need to change? Like, it feels it's weird, like because we only have this small window of this person who we're evaluating them on. I don't want to make assumptions, but of course we have to make assumptions. We can't spend all day with them, right? So I'm wondering, like, what do you feel about that? Like, let me maybe take the building teams side first, and we can leave the kind of joining a team version at the end. But like, when you're building a team, like, how do you make sure you're not, I don't know, like profiling people? I don't know how else to say it. Like, I feel like it's a fine line.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, all hiring managers profile people, way or another. It's not the most pleasant way to say, but even if we're not saying that we are profiling, um, you're doing an interview so you can understand how you would actually work with that person and
Yeah,
what that person will do when you're going to be in a stressing moment, when you're going to be under pressure, when things are going to go okay. So you want to understand those. And as you as you gain more experience, you start understanding people better. Right? There are many models. Google had their own way of hiring people, and Amazon and so on. But in reality, I would say that the biggest winner here in terms of how to actually assess if it will work out is to actually be honest with the candidate and with the candidate being honest with you. I actually had a discussion a couple of months ago with an intern about this. Like, okay, but how should I have behaved in the interview? I told her, like, you should behave naturally because if you are with an experienced hiring manager, it tells, like, just as you were saying, you had in your in the notes for your interview, confident, maybe overconfident, right? Maybe you're trying to be confident when you went there. Right? It's normal in the end. We all want to pose as the best version of ourselves. Uh, but yeah, getting back, I think the best way to assess first a person is to ask real questions and seek for real answers. And you can tell if the person is BSing you in
yeah,
the interview, right? And here I'm just talking about the fit with the culture. Like if you're looking for someone that doesn't want to start their own company, you can just ask, okay, so what are your plans for the next years? Do you want to get better at writing? Do you want to pursue entrepreneurship or something? And faced with the question, the person will answer in the
yeah,
end.
100%. I
So
found asking for stories also helped quite a bit to get a vibe from someone. Like, what was the it's an Elon Musk question, which really worked for me in my interviews. Were like, what was the most challenging thing you did in your career? And the way they answered that question, I just learned so much about everyone because what type of challenge they picked, if they were talking about we a lot when they were talking about that, or something specific. And yeah, it was very telling to try to get the story out of someone. Then you can, like you say, you get the vibe of what they would do.
Yeah, and if we're talking about teams, you need to also think about how that person will interact with the team,
Hmm.
with the team that you already have, right? And if you can compromise on the interaction because of the skills of that person. I call these people VIPs, like very good, very good technical skills, but difficult to work with. Right?
Mm.
Just like a VIP. When you have a singer traveling to a location for a concert, and they ask for the room in that hotel at room
Yeah,
14,
they actually call
at
them
row
rock
14 and
stars.
so on.
There's
Yeah,
a
yeah, rock
yeah,
stars.
yeah, those personality types.
That's,
It's funny that you're saying it because literally you're describing a rock star, but like rock star candidates where they are really, really good, but like you say, it's going to be a bit more challenging for them to mingle with everyone.
yeah, and what I found is that on the long run, it won't work out. Like you deliver, but the energy that you have to put in just to keep that person happy, and the energy that you have to put in to manage the fact that other people in the team are frustrated on the long term will
Do you recommend ever hiring a rock
fail.
star then? In that case,
Yes, if you
so
need,
even though you know it won't work out in the long term, so when? Why not just hire them as a contractor instead of hire them full time?
because they're rock stars. They might not be available to be hired as contractors, right? So I'm talking about building teams, and this is like the theory. But then the practice is pretty harsh, right? When we
Hmm.
started the studio, we had a plan and we had a perfect candidate, and we had a structure that we wanted to put in place. And then we didn't manage for the first 3 months to find a good candidate for like a head of department. And then we had to adapt. So we found some leads that would actually fit the profile. And then we worked without a head, and I had to step in and do whatever needed to be done, like at a management level, and then set up processes and so on. But you know that, right? Because you're founding your own company. If you don't find talent, you're right?
Yeah, yeah,
it's
exactly.
you
Yeah,
know it's normal. So in reality, it's almost never perfect, right? You have the perfect candidate, and then you cross some things off. Maybe you cross the no rockstar thing, because you might have. For me, for example, I have no rockstar on the must-haves. But for example, if I really need someone for launching the game, like beginning of this year, then I would probably have an open discussion.
because you have no choice, right? Like it's
Yeah,
because
let's do it. Okay, let's come here. I see these possible problems in like 6 months, a year, but I think we can launch this game together, and then we'll see if we can make it work. But
yeah.
if not, yeah,
So you mentioned nothing's always perfect, and you went through this during COVID and the pandemic, where everything went remote, right? So I think
yeah,
this adds a whole spanner to the works, especially as I build my team now remotely. It's very different to how I'm interacting with my family, which I work with, who we're in a coffee shop half the week. And then I have someone who works in Ecuador, UK, and then soon to be maybe Spain or Poland. And I have a contractor based in Ukraine. So I literally have 24/7 time zones right now on Slack. But then I have my team in Cyprus. And I'm like, I can't imagine that all happening at once during the pandemic. So I'm wondering, like, how has this affected you, like building teams in the pandemic and like effectively the remote world?
that's a good question. Everyone blamed everything on the pandemic when things started to go south in 2022, let's say 2023. Everyone was blaming the pandemic, which is partly true. Uh, our story is that we were just passing FP gate, so we will go to production in March 2020, and then the pandemic came.
Wow.
So yeah, so we had a core team, and we would just go to blueprint stage, which means we were defining the whole game. We would have like a vertical slice. It was fun. It was great. Now we needed to define the whole game and what we have in the game, what we don't have in the game, what we can produce, and so on. Like the full planning of a game. And we were in our homes. There was no working method, no proven method of building games remotely. We didn't even have the technical setup to actually build everything. We had teams, and not all of us had cameras at that point in time because we would all go to the studio before. So we had to do everything in a remote environment. We weren't even allowed. Like most of us wanted to get together because we were used to working together in the studio and so on, but we weren't allowed because of the restrictions. And we we had to switch our entire mentality, which was built around interacting at one's desk, and so on, to having calls, to drawing on a virtual whiteboard and so on, which was pretty harsh. But what I found out is that we became less aggressive because we cannot do that over over
Yeah,
video.
the lag ruins aggression. I
Yeah,
realize.
yeah. And the lag and the now the tech is great, but at that point in time, if two persons spoke at the same time, one would get cut. Like you cannot yell properly.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Okay. You have to be a bit more
So
polite.
yeah, yeah. So we didn't have this type of interactions, which was great to begin with because there were tensions in every team. You get tensions, and it's usually between management and creative. Right? Creative wants everything. Management says you cannot, and yeah. And then you have these at all levels. So we went home. We stopped having these microaggressions. But we also started drifting apart, and we were people that were working together for quite a while. But yeah, we started drifting apart, and it really took a toll on the team. And what I found is that it's very hard to build games if you have a remote team, a remote core team. And when I say core team, I mean your creative director, I mean your tech director, your art director, producer. If you're a big team, then you have all types of directors, like production directors and so on, brand directors, marketing directors. It's very hard to to work with this core team if you're in a remote environment. Maybe if you build it like that from the beginning, from scratch, and there are companies that are doing that with good results, but they started with a remote mentality, and basically they have contractors. Contractors we have which have a remote mentality. They know how to work in this environment. They don't have this type of passionate game developers that want to work together, that feed with human interactions.
Yeah.
And what I found is that most people in this industry feed with human interaction, feed on human interaction and everything that they get out of it. So we started drifting apart. Uh, it was very hard at the beginning because no one knew how to actually manage working from home. Uh, Now it's easy. Now it's easy because many people start with this mentality. You have a routine and so on. At that point in time, we didn't have any. So this changed, and we learned a lot in terms of what you need to have a good core team. And I think you need physical presence to have a good core team. Then, if you have remote teams, it's still good to have pockets of teams in other areas, but then they work together and you have your core team working together and so on. So it's not just remote people, especially when you have big teams like hundreds of people.
Can we talk about the core team thing apart? Because you mentioned core team being like the directors, but in I'm guessing smaller studios as well that you've worked in, like let's say less than 50 people.
Yeah.
How important it is to get that core team right? Because I haven't heard much people talk about like the core team, but heard more people talk about that you can't outsource like the core part of your game. And that's the stuff I keep hearing now. Now that code dev is on the rise and contract is on the rise, like you cannot outsource. I think someone from Epic Games said this, like you cannot outsource the person designing the game. You can't do that. That person needs to be part of the core team. So I'm wondering, like, what are your thoughts on the core team? Like, is there any maybe misconceptions or any mistakes people are making when it comes to like building their core team?
Hmm. I would say there are some misconceptions about it, but uh, I do think that if you have a strong core team, you have a great chance of actually succeeding. Um, and when I say core team, even if we're talking about a small team, like let's say we have a game with 10 people, right? A very small team, agile, basically an indie, a bigger indie. You will still have probably a creative person and the manager person. You need to have these two guys, at least, and then you need a tech person. If it's 10 people, you need a tech person, you need a manager, and you need a creative. And that creative might be also a writer, might be also an artist, or the tech person might be also in terms of design a little bit more
Yeah,
developed,
there's more overlap between the roles.
of course. But what I've seen with small things is that usually they don't have a manager, and that's where it all falls apart. And it's dominating in the indie area. Usually, indie developers are against organizing things, which is and they say big corporations are ruining game development because they are too structured, and you're just a very small wheel, very big organization. Um, and then if you talk to people that are working in the corporate world, say that indie developers are too unorganized, and they're very dreamy, and they
Who's
cannot.
right?
None are right. I was at the game dev conference here last year, and I was talking to indie developers, and they didn't know my background, and they were like full on ranting about big corporations like Electronic Arts and Ubisoft, and why would you work for those? But then I have many friends in Ubisoft, many friends in Electronic Arts, and like they're great game developers. We worked together like 15 years ago on games that were like mobile games. We were a team of 10, and they're passionate, and all that stuff. So both areas could actually earn from getting people across.
Yeah, of course.
But it's very hard to get people across. Usually you either go the corporation way or go the indie way, and then you're very upset about all the other people. So in the indie area, you usually don't get management because of this, because they're against organizing. So you don't get a manager, and then you have an idea, you want to implement exactly their idea, you don't plan, you don't have like a budget, you just work. You work towards your idea. Usually it's led by the creative person. And that creative person has a vision and only works in that direction. So my advice would be get a manager in the core team. A manager will actually help you launch a game.
Is
If you
this
want
what
to
you would
launch,
call a producer then at that stage?
yes, a producer. What we would call producers in gaming. So get a producer, and that producer will help you launch it. Now, when you say producer, people think about someone that owns a product, right? And if you're an indie, when you don't want someone to come in and own your product because you have your idea, right? You're the creative. Then maybe just hire someone that's like a project manager to organize
Hmm.
your stuff, right? Producer would be ideal, but there's egos there, and you don't want to have people start pumping egos. And then on the other end, when you're working on a big game in the core team, you have many areas, and there I think there are probably two big, two important areas that you need to look out for. One is make sure you have a good product. So this means you have a what we call the USP, unique selling proposition, which is make sure that your game has a place on the market, has its
As
place on
in,
the market.
as in before you even build, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Before once you have like a vertical slice, once you know that this is what you want to build, like this will be the game, right? And then you expand it, you add content and so on. But this is the game. Test against the market, see if that actually has a place. And for this, you need either a good creative director or like a marketing director, someone that's in touch with the market.
Mhm.
So this would be one, and the second would be have a good collaboration between uh, product and creative. Here I would say like the producer, the creative director, and the marketing director. So these three, and this trio makes sure that you have a good product, like a good game, a good product, and that it actually ships. If you don't get any of these, you might ship, but you will fail. You might have like you might have a market and you ship the game, but it will be not such a good game, like bad reviews, and like 9 out of 10 games fail. So
Yeah,
it's an uphill battle. Uh, so I would say, yeah, this to sum up, indeed, hire a manager or work with a manager or ask a friend to ask you if you can actually ship that game. And for big games, make sure you have a good trio with marketing, with creative, and with delivery, which is produced.
beautiful. The thing you said at the end there, where you need the connection between those two departments. Do you have any experience on what makes like a great connection? Because back in my day when I was interviewing producers a lot, it was varying between companies how connected the departments were. And I remember in a couple of examples, some of the bigger studios where like the departments were like a bit more combative than at least from other studios. So I was wondering for you, like what makes a good relationship between departments? Like, is that the job of the directors only? Is that the job of the head of studio, someone like yourself? Like, how do we keep that relationship strong?
Usually, when we're talking about project or the game, it's the producer's role to make sure that everyone gets along. Right? They handle the team. They ship a game with a team. Now, of course, you have a head of studio that usually handles like more projects, and then that head of studio or managing director or whatever you call it will make sure that there's good alignment between departments. And depending on how your company is structured, if you have like a matrix setup, or if you have each project being its own pod, then you might have the head of studio working with each department across projects, right? Like in a matrix thing. Or you have the head of studio working with a producer, and that producer needs to make sure that everything works. It's just like its own company, right? The game is its own company. If you, let's say, have 3 games at the same time, we have 3 producers, and you just have to manage the producers, and the producers have the responsibility to make sure everything works okay. And in the past, I can give you an example. So I was working with Ubisoft, and we did have this problem. Like I was a producer back then, and I would have pretty big fights with the creative director. If he's gonna see this, he's probably gonna uh, give me send me a message or something saying yes, it actually was that bad. But yeah, we were having quite a lot of fights, and fortunately enough, we would also have like a marketing director, brand director, uh, and he would bring like a third, let's say, third opinion to the whole thing. And I was managing the team, but as you had your intuition earlier, we would have like head of studio, managing director that would also help mediate these
Yeah,
these fights, right? Because Yeah,
So
in
why
the
were there
end,
fights? Can you explain like what was the
it's
friction here?
the friction is it's probably stupid. It's egos, man. It's
Was it the vision? Like you just differing on the vision?
yeah, it's vision, and we're building games because we're passionate, and then each each person had a vision. I had a vision. The creative director had a vision. The brand director had a vision, and sometimes two of us would align. Other times, the other two would align. But I would say the biggest problem was that creative and product were not fully aligned. Like what we wanted to build creatively was not fully aligned with what we wanted to ship on the market.
So how do we prevent that from happening? Because that's a big misalignment, right? Like if you zoomed out, that seems like
Yeah, it was harsh, but as I told you, in reality, like in practice, things get messy, and
yeah, it may be inevitable. What I'm thinking is like, what do we do about it, right? Like, is it fight it out? Is it the head of studio's job to mediate? And if I'm in that situation, I need to kind of get back up. Like, I'm just thinking for the people listening here, like, what do we do?
I would recommend. So let's say let's try to find three things. So three practical things that you can do. One, um, be mindful when you create your core team. In the beginning, make sure that you have like a line, right? So this would be like a preemptive action.
Yeah,
Make sure you have alignment on what you want to build between producing and create. So this is one. Then the second one would be what I mentioned earlier, which is test your product with the market, right? Because if you test later, then the market might say it needs something else,
yeah,
but then the creative is building a game, right? And
yeah.
it's
And they're getting roots in the original vision, and
yes,
then
yeah,
yeah, even if
and
it's objectively the right choice to change, that's when it gets hard.
yes. And here I would also add test with real data, like get some analytics on it, uh, test with real players. This would be ideal. Test with real players because whenever you test with your team, and this is what most game development teams do, like they test with the development team,
Yeah,
and usually the development team is there because they're passionate about something
yeah.
in
Or
that
even
area.
passionate about the genre as well. I've noticed that.
Yes, and then they're gonna have a skewed opinion. That's the thing. So ideally, do playtests. It's great to have playtests with external people, right?
Mhm.
Play just hand it over to your friends if you have a small company, but it's more valuable than having just your team play. Yeah, and the third practical tip would be just yeah, let fights happen, fight it out. I mean, don't keep it in because it's still gonna blow at some point.
Yeah, that's a lot worse. I
Uh,
feel. Maybe
yeah,
I'm wondering, is there a good way and a bad way to fight?
yeah, it depends on the culture you're in, right? I might have
Mm.
an answer here. You might get a different answer in the US or
Yeah,
in the Nordic countries. But I think laying things like as they are helps. Just state your mind on it. There's one thing that leads to pretty bad results, which is uh, disagree and not commit. It's like you're talking about things and you you're fighting. You're saying you're not disagreeing. You're not agreeing, right? You have different opinion, and then you're not committing to doing anything, right? What we are targeting is disagree and commit. If you
yeah,
cannot reach an agreement, just disagree and say, okay, but we need a very good trust within the team to do this. It's like, okay, I don't agree that we should write this. For example, in your case, right? We're gonna say, yeah, I think this is too risky, and I don't agree. but I'm gonna help you write it because I might be wrong.
Yeah, let's ship it and look at the data. At least
Let's
the
ship it.
lucky thing about me is if we ship it, the data will be out in a week,
Yeah,
which is kind of a fun thing.
it's harder for game development.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the feedback loop is
it's tricky. It's
very
very.
wide.
I'm wondering, are there any pitfalls when you're building games? I'm just thinking about that feedback loop because you've been part of a few big projects now. Just in your experience, is there any big pitfalls you see other maybe studios falling into that you've kind of learned not to step into them anymore? Like any big mistakes?
The biggest one is to not know your market, and I've
So how does that
seen
work? I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just curious because I hear this a lot, and I'm wondering: is it the role of like everyone in the studio, or is it like only the marketing person, or like should this be the role of the QA? Should this like who? In my head, isn't one person going to own that, right?
it's in my view, this person should be the producer. So
Interesting. Okay.
if you have a, or the executive producer, let's call it executive producer, right? So the executive producer needs to make sure that they launch a successful game, which means a successful product and a commercially successful product. So this means you need to look at the market and you need to see that there is a niche, there is a target audience there, and that your competitors will not eat you alive, and so on. And they would be like accountable for it. Now, the responsibility may be passed to marketing and so on. If you're in a big corporation, it might be that marketing owns everything, right? But it's the responsibility of the person in charge of the product. And that might be the producer, that might be a marketing director. But usually, this is done either late in the development stage or it's done superficially.
Yeah,
You know,
it's very
you
weird.
want it to succeed, and because you want it to succeed, you're ignoring the red flags. You know,
It's like
there's a ton of memes about that,
yeah,
like ignoring red
like
flags.
it's like the elephant in the room. It's like this is why it won't work. It's like ignore that. I mean, look at this
Yeah,
pretty data
yeah,
here. Look
but
at this.
this is why it has a great chance of working. And
Yeah,
we won't hit that wall, you know.
yeah,
And this is happening quite often, right? Because you want the product to live, you want it to succeed, right? And, sometimes you ignore. This is why you need diversity. You need people to challenge you on the long run, as I was saying.
yeah,
You
yeah.
need someone to come and ask the nasty questions, the ones that no one wants to ask. Talk about the elephant in the room. It's uncomfortable, but I think if you have a mature team, you need this. You need this
Absolutely.
fighting. Yeah. So I think this is the biggest pitfall. The second one is not focusing on the fun.
What
And
do you define as fun?
I we call it the toy of a game, right? The game will have the one thing that actually players want to experience, and that uh, might be maybe a stealth mechanic, and usually that's what the players experience, or um, what else? Like for platformers, the toy is in the actual timing, right?
Yeah,
You time your jumps and you avoid you time your the way you run and so on. So that would be the toy and platformer game. So what I've seen in a lot of projects is people focusing on all the other stuff, like the icing, and not on the core gameplay, because the core gameplay is not fun. And if it's not fun, it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it. Let's add levels. Let's add content. Big, big levels. Various biomes. It looks amazing, but it might be empty.
hmm
It might feel repetitive and so on. And I want to say unfortunately I worked on many projects that had this, but I don't know if it's unfortunate. I think it's just reality itself.
Is it solvable then? Like you said, it's reality that games will be built where they haven't found the fun. But as an outsider looking in, can you not measure fun by making people play the game? They rank it from 1 to 10 fun, if depending on their type of play styles, and then you keep improving it.
That's true. You can rank it, but you can also fake it. Or like just I'm gonna give you an example. So let's say you have a game where, and I can actually talk about it. Let's say I worked on Skull and Bones a while ago, right? And we you are sailing, and in reality, sailing becomes boring pretty fast because right. And I can also talk about Dune and the sand because that gets boring pretty fast also. Like you're in the sand, this is sand and rocks. But getting back to sailing, so that becomes boring pretty fast, right? And then you add some other ships and you start shooting. Okay, it becomes boring a little bit later. So you're testing it, and in the beginning it's boring, and then it becomes a bit more fun. You're on a good path, and then in parallel you add good graphics, like it looks amazing. Humans like beautiful things. It's simple as that. So
True.
then you have your next PlayStation, your next playtest, and it ranks even higher. Nothing changed in terms of gameplay, but it looks
Mm,
pretty. And from the moment it looks pretty, the chances of going low in the playtest will be very slim, right? It will still rank decently. So you don't have your toy yet, but you start having good results. And because you have good results, you start investing more. And it's the same with small games, right? You uh, maybe you don't have the the whole core gameplay being fun, but you
because
have a
they're
good
only
artist.
is it only because they're like measuring effectively the day one fun, like day one retention versus day 30? Like, because it's very probably hard to measure that on a game that isn't mobile live ops. So if you do improve the graphics, then yeah, if I'm playing a game for like an hour or 4 hours, then
Or a
metrics will go
day,
up.
or even two, right? Metrics
Yeah.
go up, right? It's hard to measure day 30 until you have the full game somehow, right? Because
Yeah,
it's hard to
it's
go
very unrealistic, right?
to day 30. You measure it, but later in the development process. Right? But as a development team, as the leadership team of a game, I don't know, a producer, a creative director, a game director, an art director, they should be focusing on having the fun gameplay loop, like the second to second, minute to minute gameplay, hour to hour gameplay, right? In this order, and not the other way around. Like, yeah, it's fun if you play every day, but what you play every second is basically BS,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I
So
think
so yeah, I think this is one of the biggest pitfall I've seen. Polishing too early, adding icing to the cake.
beautiful. I want to end with this. You mentioned you were giving feedback to interns not so long ago, and I want to just get your thoughts on obviously the market right now in the games industry. It's always been a hard market to break into, but right now it's probably tougher than usual. Any feedback you'd give to people looking to join a studio? Any feedback to what is successful when people join Funcom? People really like that. Any specific examples of like what helps people kind of get a promotion, a new job, anything like that?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I actually had this question last week when we had some discussions with young aspirants who want to get into the industry. Um, I would say, first of all, like, try to be yourself in the interview because people will understand who you are regardless. And if you try to be someone else, then you're wasting your energy on being someone else rather than
Yeah,
being like having a good interview. The second thing is like right now the industry is looking for people that can deliver, and this is in particular right now we we're in this shift towards doing more with less. Uh, we've had these layoffs in the last years, so the industry is in a weird spot, as you said. So just two things: be able to ship and have this mentality. This is one of the most important things that people are looking, like how studios are looking for right now.
You're looking for
Uh,
evidence of people shipping, just
of
even if it's
people,
small.
yes, like personal projects, passion. Show that you're passionate about gaming, passionate about building games, not just about gaming. Many people say, "Yeah, I'm passionate about games because I play a lot," right? And it's not the same thing.
Yeah, you're not playing as a professional. You're not playing to see what the game is good. If someone says you're passionate about games, but you've played an MMO for half your life, then well, you
It's
are
great.
really good at that MMO,
You
right?
probably, yeah, you're good as a consumer of an MMO, and you probably understand what you would like out of an MMO, but it definitely doesn't mean that you can build and design a thing.
Yeah.
So people like you will be able to consume that. Yeah. So I would say be able to actually ship and show that you want to develop games. And yeah, I think these are the two big things. Be passionate, be yourself, be passionate, and another big thing is don't get upset that you're not going to get a job in the first out of the first 10 interviews, 15 interviews. It's very hard for juniors to break in right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, just learn. It's not harder than it was 20 years ago. I reckon that.
And to add on to that point, like I know some young people are getting positions, and it's usually exactly what you're saying. Like they've done something, they're doing something, and it's not their entire life, right? When I say not their entire life, I mean job applications aren't their entire life. They're shipping something, and that is where most of the time is going, which is helping the application process, rather than the other way around, where they're just basically definition of insanity, keeping on applying, not doing anything new, and that's where it can get quite sad. You can start spiraling, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's the system. It's like, no, you need to do something, whatever that ends up being.
And actually, now that you mentioned it, one other thing is just like very practical. Start working in either Unreal or Unity. Like just do whatever in that engine because you're going to become more technical, and all the jobs right now require technical knowledge. Either you're a designer or a QA or an artist. Even as an artist, you need to have some technical skill. Just
Hmm.
start working with Unreal. It's probably your
Yeah, the
best
communities are crazy
ROI.
good as well. Like the Discord community is like super helpful from what I've heard. I've not been in them myself, but from people who like do build stuff, like want to get started, like the support is there.
Yeah, and if I get an applicant that says, "Yeah, for the last 4 months, I'm trying to find a job, I cannot," and I started this Unreal project, and I went through all the tutorials, and now I'm building a platform. It's the simplest thing. Just build a platform in Unreal. It shows that you're actually passionate about developing games.
Yeah. Versus the person who didn't do that. So who would you go for?
Of
Beautiful.
course.
Lovely. Quick last comment because it just happened. Did you see the announcement of Unity and Unreal kind of becoming best friends?
No, I actually did not.
You haven't, bro?
No,
Breaking news. It's happened. You haven't seen this?
no. Now you're
That's
making me
crazy.
curious.
Yeah, it was like a massive announcement. It was yesterday. Let me get
I've
your
been,
hot take.
I have been under a rock. We're
I mean,
doing our annual. This is the time when you do your annual performance reviews. You know,
okay.
and
I'm very curious on your hot take here. So Unity and
let's.
Epic Games became best buddies. So they did an announcement, and basically as far as I understand, Unreal Engine will start using Unity's like payments platform, but then Unity developers can bring their Unity games to Fortnite. So they're doing like a little
Yeah,
swappy swap.
I saw about Unity games coming to Fortnite. I didn't know about the commerce. Okay. Yeah. So I do have not a hot take, not a super hot take about Unity games going to Fortnite. I think it's a great move,
Yeah,
and yeah, and I think it opens up the market for like even small developers to have like a
more
new,
distribution channels. Like
yeah,
I think
a
that's
new
just
way
huge.
to distribute their games.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
I
also
opinions are, as you might imagine, split. I had discussions yesterday on this topic, and I have colleagues that say, "Why can someone explain?" We actually had a question from from a colleague saying, "Can someone explain to me why is this happening?" But I think it's great.
I
I'm on
think
the
it's
other.
an answer to Roblox, something like that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah. It's basically that, right? You want uh, to advance in the world of UGC, and I think it's great for small developers. I think it's great for Unity because you will get more people being enthusiastic about working with Unity, and it's a good engine to work with when you're beginning to to do game development. So my take is I think it's a great move from all the parties involved and
alrighty,
for the gaming industry.
yeah, I'm very excited to see how that plays out.
I
Beautiful.
hope I'm not going to watch this next year and, and
Disaster,
think,
fire.
yeah, it's okay. Yeah, my prediction was great. The whole industry blew up because of this. But
That's
why
fine.
not?
Thank you so much for your time, man. For this conversation, is there anything you feel like you want to leave the people listening with? Anything maybe we haven't spoken about?
Mm, just be mindful of who you work with. You spend most of your time with the people you work with. I know it sounds weird, but in reality, you spend most of your time with your colleagues. And as managers, as people that build teams, keep this in mind that you're basically building a part of life for your team. Make it make it nice.
Yep. Look at this bad boy. Co-workers, red. It's one of the highest ones forever, and this is alone. So like biggest chunk of your life, co-workers.
Biggest chunk. It's true.
Yeah, it really stroked me here. I looked at this the other day. Where is it? Yeah, basically, this is more important than choosing your friends sometimes.
Yeah, that's how I see it, really, and that's one of the reasons it became one of my passions. Like you're building a part of life for people. You're not just
Yeah,
hiring people and so on, and that they're gonna be happier or more upset based on your decisions, which is no pressure.
beautiful. Thanks so much. So, if anyone wanted to reach out to you, is there a best way to contact you and get in touch?
Just ping me on LinkedIn, and I'll I'll get back to you.
Beautiful. Alrighty. Thank you so much for your time. Links to that in the description. If you've listened through the whole thing, send it to your internal Slack. Maybe subscribe to the podcast, Shock Horror, and definitely follow Ionut and maybe Harry Foku on LinkedIn. Lovely. I'll love you and leave you, everyone. Have a great day. And thanks so much.
Thank you for inviting me, and yeah, do subscribe. Cheers.
Awesome. Cheers.